truth. Bring it on.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth? I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Yeah, this is going to be your turn to get in on the action in just a moment. But I wanted to close out the week by saying that and echoing what Chris Woodward and Colonel Gordon Kukulu was talking about with veterans. If you see someone who has served or is serving, to let them know, hey, thanks. Thank you very much. If you're at an airport, an easy thing to do is to, if you see somebody in line, maybe buy them the lunch that they're buying, the dinner they're buying, or the cup of coffee they're getting. It's something that can go a long way. I will tell you that it is something that we have forgotten about in this country, and I'm not saying that looking down and pointing down at anybody. I say that looking up. And as a disciple in progress and understanding that when we speak of our veterans, I think what's happened in our foreign policy is we failed to call evil evil and really expose and tell the truth about what the American soldier, airman, sailor, Marine has done to liberate people around the world historically, and it's extraordinary. And when we're told about wars ending, you got to ask yourself, well, wars are won or lost, or they're fought to stalemates to a degree, and exactly what does that mean to end wars, and what does that mean? Does that mean short-term gain in the sense of peace or ostensible peace, and long-term trouble because we're going to have to address a problem that's going to get stronger over time? And I'm thinking of Iraq right now and the Iranian superstate, but I digress. If you support the troops, which I believe the vast majority, 99.9% of you do, obviously, then we need to have leaders that articulate a vision, define victory, speak the truth about what we've done in the past, and when it comes to resources and demonstrations of action, when the troops are attacked or our citizens are attacked, we must demonstrate strength. You don't get that from leading from behind, bottom line. You don't. And I will say this, I think it's disgusting how this president has treated the U.S. military. I think he has done not irreparable harm to our national security, but severe harm to our national security. And I think what we're seeing with Israel, not only with the settlement position and calling them illegal, but also the undermining of their security by weakening sanctions and negotiating after the Iranian President Rouhani, who is no moderate, and moving forward with a deal that we have Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying, well, I know I'm calling an audible everybody on Friday of all things, but let's get B-26 real quick. This is what the Prime Minister had to say. Very important. Roll it.
I met Secretary Kerry right before he leaves to Geneva. I reminded him that he said that no deal is better than a bad deal. And the deal that is being discussed in Geneva right now is a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. Iran is not required to take apart even one centrifuge. But the international community is relieving sanctions on Iran for the first time after many years. Iran gets everything that it wanted at this stage, and it pays nothing. And this is when Iran is under severe pressure. I urge Secretary Kerry not to rush to sign, to wait, to reconsider, to get a good deal. But this is a bad deal, a very, very bad deal. It's the deal of the century for Iran. It's a very dangerous and bad deal for peace in the international community.
And the survival of Israel. As we know, Israel will definitely survive, obviously. But the point is this. We look at the threats they face on a daily basis. And I'm not cynical. I'm not a pessimist. But if we don't understand that the president's saying what he's going to do, his past points to it, this is what he is about, this is what the left has been about, their track record of failure is, you have examples replete throughout history that examine the leftist cause and the leftist approach and the absolute failure, and the only way they can deal with these things is actually rewrite history, to the point where people are saying, yeah, Gorbachev really allowed for Reagan to win. No, he didn't. Reagan's Peace Through Strength and Exposing the Evil Empire did. Read Natan Sharansky's The Case for Democracy. If you don't identify evil and you get to a point where you're calling evil good and good evil, you got a serious problem. And when you take a country like Israel and put them on the same moral plane as Fatah and the Palestinian government as we know it, with Mahmoud Abbas, we see what happens. That's like putting us on the same level with Al-Qaeda. And then you get the critics of the administration, critics of America, taking out of context history. And it's just deeply disturbing. Hey, I know it's Friday, and there's a lot. I want to get to the headline of the week. We're talking about Israel's leader talking about how bad the deal is and going public with encouraging our Secretary of State, John Kerry, who came back and lied about his fellow countrymen at time of war, by the way. That doesn't go away. You want to talk to people who know John Kerry and realize the impact he has? Talk to Phil Jennings. Talk to Ralph Peters. Talk to Colonel Kukulu. This is not personal, but when somebody responds in this way and has a history like that, talk to John O'Neill. We can agree and disagree on policies, but let's not change what America has done, and specifically what our military has accomplished. Have we made mistakes? Of course we have. But unlike the left, I don't measure us against the perfect. I measure us against the actual, with the recognition that human nature doesn't evolve. And of course there are going to be mistakes, and when we make them, we admit them, and we move on, and we do what we can to correct them. I'll tell you what a mistake was, telling the Shias to rise up in the first Gulf War and having them slaughtered, not aiding them, not having a plan to do it, but everybody was all right with it because it was the 100 Hours War, and that moved along, but that cost us deeply in the beginning of the Iraq War, as we know it, Operation Iraqi Freedom. So there are consequences. The idea of seeing Turkey as, oh, they can have Islamic democracy. No, they can't, because inevitably Islam is going to take over and it's going to be the law. And they look at this and they haven't rejected political Islam, and that's what happens. You can't plant a seed of Islam as the source of authority and not intended to inevitably take over and grow. And when we have an opportunity to support people who desire to be free, like in Egypt, we choose the brutal dictator. And because of a flawed election, to say the least, and the ability for a leader to be elected like Morsi to come in and suspend democratic institutions and the rights of the people and work toward a dictatorial state, then you enforced by thuggery, and then you take the response to that and you demonize that and you say everybody's on the same plane. No, they're not. And the Egyptian people now are looking to Russia, Putin, who's a brutal killer, a sick, brutal killer, a thug. And that's who's, Putin's going to come in and show, what does he have? Strength. And by the way, he's interested in not protecting Israel at all. In fact, he's armed the Syrians. It's just bizarre to me. And this is what happens. And then you can cloud it up just enough where we really can't, we have the rebels who are Islamic and allied with Al-Qaeda, and then you have Bashar Assad, and so we can't really choose a side, and it's going to take time to work out a side that we can get on because we can't support Al-Qaeda and we can't support Assad. We've got to find that, and that takes time, but you don't get that from leading from behind, and you don't get it from taking the biggest bully pulpit in the world, which is the American presidency, and not speak to what we believe in, why we believe in it, and what historically we've done. You don't apologize for the right answer. Mutual respect. I have no ripping respect for the Iranian government. I'd like it to go poof, goodbye. Well, the democratically elected, yeah. I mean, seriously? Seriously? I mean, how much paste do you have to eat to talk about respecting the Iranian regime and Rouhani? What is that? Speak to the Iranian people about that. Oh, yeah, you can't because people who speak out are actually shot and killed in the street. You can get video on that, or you can see the torture, or see what they do to missionaries. Wonderful. And that's another thing. We don't talk about the persecution of Christians in the Middle East, or North Africa, or in the world. We don't talk about it. And here we can identify what a Judeo-Christian society that's based on it, and what happens when you have this. You have a society that respects life. When they talk about the West, you're talking about the Christian West. And then it's bizarre because you're dealing with a society that has not recognized evil or forgotten about evil and the consequences. Never again. I mean, look at what's happening. We look at the United Nations. What a pathetic organization. Yes, we'll get their approval, work through. Yeah, really? China, Russia? Yeah, veto power? Yeah, that's going to happen. Good luck. Let's get, who was on the Human Rights Council recently there? Over the years, it's amazing. And I know they've changed the name of it. And we supply a quarter of their budget. and people call us radicals for doing this. I don't care about the moniker they want to attach or ascribe. I would say this: when we experience the consequences of inaction against evil, or we experience what these regimes and groups and governments are all about, then you have the response on September 11th where there is absolute anger, frustration, whatever it may be, and it's directed toward our enemies at the time. I want to get those guys. Why didn't we do anything? And then it's pointing of the fingers. I remember Bush talked about this, and Bush wasn't perfect, but again, don't measure people against the perfect. Measure them against the actual. I know leftists, that's hard for you to do because you believe in utopia, which has been just a wonderful body count. Check out the butcher's bill for that one. Yeah. The left rejects the domino theory. Yeah, that's why China was Red Chinese and Russia were supporting North Vietnamese. You didn't follow that? Didn't get that? Yeah. So, a great tool of evil are the folks on the left oftentimes, and sometimes useful idiots, what they don't understand because their ideas aren't challenged or they're not recognizing the actual of history. But back to the point of understanding evil. Everybody, after September 11th, what has changed about our enemy? They still want to cut off our heads. They still want to remove America. They still want to take us down. Absolutely. They still want the worldwide caliphate. They still want a worldwide caliphate. And what gets me is people are sitting back and going, you have the Prime Minister of Israel going public with criticism and a warning to our Secretary of State? Yeah, I could tell you about Obamacare, and I could tell you the fact that he lied and he's apologizing. No, he's not apologizing. This man's not apologizing. He's apologizing for the feelings we have about his lie after he tried to manipulate the lie. I mean, it's a fire hose every night. I could open it up and we could talk about 20 different topics. Well, there's a theme here: dishonesty. Oh, all president. No. Sorry, not there. And by the way, there's a strategy with the Benghazi thing. To cloud it just enough, 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes has to retract what they did on the Benghazi issue. You're going to hear about this. I would play it. We don't have the time right now because there's too much to get to. But understand this. The real scandal in Benghazi with 60 Minutes never has been dealt with, which was the lie told on the October 16th debate that they knew of on September 12th when they did the interview with the president, and he didn't call it terrorism. But on October 16th, he said he did call it terrorism specifically, and they held the tape 2 days before the election. Why'd they do that? Why? And for you all who write me on Facebook, I appreciate it. It's wonderful. But for the leftists who say, what were the lies? Tell us the lies. You know everything. No, I don't know everything, but I do know that this wasn't true in the context that is the evidence we have shows it's not true, whether it's the notes and the taking out of references to Al-Qaeda, blaming a ripping video, and the more we learn about that, we do have testimony, but you all want to deny it. And you know what's crazy about that? What really makes me think that you're going home and sniffing rubber cement? The idea that this impacts your security, and these are our guys. They're Americans. And you're defending a policy that's lying about their death, and you're saying that's okay and denying the evidence. Well, you just think President Obama's out to destroy America. No, I think he's out to transform America, and not for the better, but he believes for the better because he has a worldview that is definitely apart from what America is, which is the leader of the free world. He talked about Europe's leading place in the world, historic leading role in the world. He doesn't believe in leadership. He's not comfortable with it. He's, in essence, multiculturalism. And you also have black liberation theology, but I digress. Back to Iran. You have the prime minister making this. Play this again. This is huge. B-26. Roll it.
I met Secretary Kerry right before he leaves to Geneva. I reminded him that he said that no deal is better than a bad deal. And the deal that is being discussed in Geneva right now is a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. Iran is not required to take apart even one centrifuge. But the international community is relieving sanctions on Iran. For the first time after many years, Iran gets everything that it wanted at this stage, and it pays nothing. And this is when Iran is under severe pressure. I urge Secretary Kerry not to rush to sign, to wait, to reconsider, to get a good deal. But this is a bad deal, a very, very bad deal. It's the deal of the century for Iran. It's a very dangerous and bad deal for peace in the international community.
And the survival of Israel. Yeah, we know Israel will survive, obviously. But here's the thing. I want you to know this. We had a segment plan that was completely different. And the more I heard that, and the more I'm reminded of what he is doing, he's going public with this. This is not a small deal. One of the great things about this audience and what's special about being on AFR is I know you all support Israel like me. And you realize the seriousness of this. You realize a policy. I mean, there are those that will always blame Israel. I don't understand that. I can't get that. But I think it's conspiratorial oftentimes based on evidence that is tenuous at best and not in the context of history. And not in the context of history. So what gets me is the fact that we are hearing the Prime Minister of Israel challenging our Secretary of State in public, advising him and warning him. Why? Because they've already been negotiating about weakening the sanctions. Why? Because they're going to be able to enrich low-grade uranium. Why? Because they're not going to be dismantling their program. Why? Because these sanctions have been effective and they're just about to break through and we've pulled it back. It's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. The other thing I don't understand is why aren't we holding up Israel as an example to the Middle East of what's right with the Middle East as opposed to what is the problem with the Middle East? I mean, what part of common sense in your soul do you have to bury to come up with that one? With respect to people who are misguided on that issue, I hope you get the truth. I truly do. The very serious times right now, and we have a president, and even the press is not getting behind the lie, so to speak. But they did repeat that one, he apologized. He didn't apologize. Why do these all come together? Because, again, dishonesty, an overall agenda to transform America, the consent of the governed, not really interested in convincing you they're right. We've talked about Saul Alinsky tactics. This is not a conspiracy. This is reality. It's not too hard to connect the dots of coming in and transforming society through power, not convincing, not through reason, not through understanding. No, we're going to ram this through. We'll speak to bipartisanship, and we will say things that are absolutely not congruous with the record, but we will continue to say them and keep putting and implementing. And when we don't have the ability to get it passed through Congress, we'll use parliamentary procedures and we'll use executive orders. And by the way, Israel's been getting this signal from the beginning, from the Obama administration, and it's disgusting. It's sick. It is the story of the week, potentially right now of the year when it comes to our nuclear program or the Iranian nuclear program and the overall consequence. I encourage you. I'm going to post it up on the Facebook. Do me a favor. Like the page. Check out the Facebook. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a great Veterans Day weekend. Honor a vet. And we will see you. Live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart. Remember to always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. God knows you. He created you. He loves you right where you're at. And you're worth it. American Family Radio, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Go to the Facebook page, like it, AFR Talk. Thank you.